The hierarchy in the underworld of crime is as bloody and rigid as the rules that govern it. But what happens when the old guard makes way for a new generation of ruthless leaders? These young mafia bosses are without mercy and dangerous. They have clawed their way to the top of the criminal food chain. From Emanuele Cilo, the teenage prodigy of Naples, Camorra, who's become like a god in the criminal world, to Fulan Dei, a daredevil woman who has rocked the boat of the world of crime. Buckle up as we explore their dangerous worlds, their rise to infamy, and their ongoing battles for supremacy. Emanuele Cilo. Emanuele Cilo, who was born in 1996, rose to become a well-known young mob boss in Naples, Italy. He is in charge of the Cilo clan, which is a branch of the Camorra. He became well-known when he was a teenager, representing a new wave of violent teens in the city's crime underworld. Cilo's quick rise was marked by his cruel methods and his ability to command respect from his peers, despite being young. By the time he was 19, Cilo had already established himself as a significant figure in the Camorra, a role typically reserved for much older individuals. His gang did a lot of illegal things, like selling drugs, extortion, and violent fights over territory. To show who was in charge, these operations often used violent methods like stesa, in which gang members would ride through neighborhoods on mopeds and randomly fire guns at people to scare them, and members of rival groups. Cilo's notoriety and violent approach made him both a feared and respected figure in Naples. His life and deeds gave rise to Roberto Saviano's book, La Paranza dei Bambini, which is about young mafiosi like Cilo, who are put in charge when their older bosses are jailed. His rise was facilitated by the weakening of older crime families and the power vacuum created by the arrests and deaths of several high-ranking members. He capitalized on this instability, demonstrating a combination of ruthlessness and strategic acumen that won him both fear and respect. Billy Arnold. Billy Arnold is a well-known criminal, especially as the leader of the 7 Mile Blood Street gang in Detroit, Michigan. He's 37 years old now. His criminal activities have marked him as a notorious and active mafia boss. Arnold's criminal career has been marked by a lot of different kinds of violence and illegal actions. He was recently found guilty of 22 counts, including murder, attempted murder, racketeering plot, and several gun crimes. After a 6-week federal hearing that showed how cruel he was as a leader and how much fear he caused in the Detroit community, he was found guilty. One of Arnold's most infamous acts was a murder committed in July 2014. While on parole, Arnold encountered rival gang members at a parole office and, after waiting for them to leave, followed and opened fire on their vehicle, killing one and seriously injuring another. This action caused a deadly gang war in Detroit, which led to many shootings in response. Arnold's rule of terror continued in 2015 with more shootings, including a well-known incident in which he shot a 15-year-old bystander while trying to kill a member of a rival gang. During this violent time, he was finally caught after a high-speed chase where police found an assault rifle that had been used in several shootings. His leadership in the 7 Mile Bloods has led to widespread fear and violence, particularly in the gang's territory known as the Red Zone on Detroit's east side. The gang has been involved in various criminal activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, and illegal firearms possession. Arnold's reputation as a cruel young mob boss is well established, and his story is still used as a warning in the criminal world today. Vinnie Basano Jr. Vinnie Basano Jr., often referred to as Vincent Basano Jr., is the son of the notorious former Bonanno crime family boss Vincent "Vinnie Gorgeous" Basano. While detailed public records on his exact birth date and current age are not widely available, Vincent Basano Jr. is in his early to mid-30s as of now, considering the timeline of his family's criminal activities and his own known run-ins with the law. Vinnie Basano Jr. has been implicated in several criminal activities, primarily revolving around drug trafficking. He, along with his brothers Stephen and Joseph, was involved in a long-running drug ring. This operation came to a head with a significant legal crackdown that saw Stephen receiving a 42-month prison sentence for his substantial role in the drug operation. Joseph was sentenced to 6 months, while Vincent Jr.'s sentencing details have been less clear, but indicate involvement in similar crimes. This ongoing behavior shows that there is a history of crime in the family that is being carried on by the younger generation. The story of Vinnie Basano Jr. shows how long-lasting these criminal organizations are, and how they can change and keep running even when the law is against them. Joseph Di Benedetto. 42 years old Joseph Di Benedetto is a legend in the organized crime world. I'm talking about looting union pension funds, extortion, and loan sharking. These charges stemmed from his alleged involvement in various criminal activities that exploited his connections and influence. Di Benedetto was accused of siphoning money from union pension funds, a crime that seriously messed with the financial security of union members. It's just another example of the crazy corruption going on in some union operations. It was like a scam to snatch pension money and give it to Di Benedetto and his crew, leaving hardworking people with no retirement savings. Like, seriously, so unfair. Not only did he loot pension funds, but he also got caught up in some serious extortion charges. Loan sharking was another significant charge against Di Benedetto. Moreover, Di Benedetto was discovered to have held a no-show job, a common method used by organized crime to funnel money to its members. In such arrangements, individuals are listed on the payroll of a legitimate business or organization, but do not perform any actual work. This practice not only facilitates money laundering, but also diverts resources from legitimate purposes. Gianni Nicchi. Gianni Nicchi is a notable figure within the Sicilian Mafia, commonly referred to as Cosa Nostra. Nicchi was born on December 16, 1981, and has been involved with organized crime since he was a child. He quickly rose through the ranks and is now a well-known and feared mafia boss. A string of high-profile crimes and arrests have marked his rise in the criminal underworld. Nicchi was already well known in the group by the time he was in his early 20s. He was known for being cruel and smart. Gianni Nicchi has been charged with many crimes over the course of his work, including murder, extortion, and drug trafficking. He has been arrested and convicted of these crimes more than once, but he has often been able to get away from the police for long periods of time. Extortion has been one of Nicchi's main crime activities. This is a common way for the mafia to make money. Nicchi was also very active in drug trafficking in addition to extortion. He led Cosa Nostra to build huge networks for bringing drugs into and spreading them across Europe. Nicchi's business often involved sending large amounts of drugs like cocaine and heroin through different routes so that they would not be caught by police. His relatively young age for a mafia boss indicates that he could continue to play a significant role in organized crime for many years to come. Paul Cassano. 45 years old Paul Cassano, often referred to as Paulie, is a notorious figure within the Bronx faction of an organized crime family operating throughout the East Coast of the United States. His criminal activities are on a whole other level. He's involved in racketeering, murder, and narcotics, like seriously intense stuff. No wonder he's one of the most feared and influential soldiers in the organization. He's in the game of making that cash flow, but in a super sneaky way. He's all about that money laundering life, keeping things on the down low and making those earnings look legit. They're literally funneling cash through laundromats, car washes, and restaurants to make it look legit. Murder is a key component of Paulie Cassano's operations. It's his way of showing his power and getting rid of any threats. Crazy, right? They're all about that intense, action-packed life, constantly getting into wild and violent confrontations with rival factions. It's a battlefield out there with casualties left and right. It's all about asserting dominance and showing who's boss in those contested areas. Paulie Cassano's influence extends well beyond the Bronx, impacting the broader East Coast region. His network of criminal associates includes connections in major cities such as New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and Miami. This extensive reach allows him to coordinate large-scale operations and maintain a formidable presence in the criminal underworld. Jimmy Sherer. Jimmy Sherer is a notorious Haitian gang leader currently active in Haiti. He is also known as Barbecue. Sherer is sure it's because his mom ran a fried chicken stand in Port-au-Prince that he was named Barbecue. But critics say Sherer got that name because he carried out several killings in the nation's capital from 2018 to 2020, in which, according to the United Nations, dozens of people were killed and many were burned alive in their homes. A really tragic barbecue fest. Before he became a criminal, Sherer was a police officer for Haiti's National Police. He worked in the Departmental Crowd Control Unit, which was often blamed for using too much force during protests and riots. He first got a lot of attention for his part in the La Saline massacre in November 2018, in which more than 400 homes were burned, at least 71 people were killed, and many women were defiled. This horrible act was part of a pattern of violent operations that targeted areas that were against the government. At least 24 people were killed, and many houses were destroyed during a 4-day attack led by Sherer in the Bel Air neighborhood of Port-au-Prince in 2019. Money, weapons, police uniforms, and cars were given to him by government officials as gifts, showing how close he was to political figures. Sherer most notable criminal endeavor has been the formation and leadership of the G9 family and allies, a coalition of more than a dozen gangs. This group has gained a lot more power over Port-au-Prince by extortion, kidnapping for ransom, and blocking access to important supplies. One of the most damaging blockades happened at the Varro fuel terminal. It caused serious shortages of fuel and other necessary supplies, which made the country even less stable. Besides these crimes, Sherer has also been involved in other well-known ones, like planning the 2024 jail attacks that let more than 4,700 prisoners escape and an attempt to storm the Toussaint Louverture International Airport. These actions demonstrate his ongoing influence and control over Haiti's gang landscape. Al Trucchio. Alphonse Al Trucchio is a well-known member of the Gambino crime family, which is one of the most powerful mafia groups in the United States. Trucchio quickly moved up the ranks and was made a part of the Gambino family when he was in his 20s. By the time he was 30, he was captain, making him one of the youngest captains in the history of La Cosa Nostra. He was involved with drug dealing. His group sold a lot of drugs like cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, and Vicodin, making millions of dollars in illegal money. Besides that, Trucchio organized the extortion of several Queens strip clubs, systematically recouped loans, and ran illegal gaming businesses. His group was also known for attacking people violently to enforce their rackets and get money for bills. In 2011, Trucchio was caught in a big mafia bust that also arrested over 120 other mobsters and associates from different families. He was charged with many crimes and later pleaded guilty to them all, such as racketeering, drug trafficking, attack, illegal gambling, loan sharking, extortion, and obstruction of justice. He was given a 121-month prison term and told to pay $100,000 in forfeitures. Despite his incarceration, Trucchio's influence remained notable. James "Jimmy Frogs" Gallione. James "Jimmy Frogs" Gallione is the ultimate bad boy of the underworld. He's been indicted and charged with being the mastermind behind a major crack cocaine ring. His activities caught the eye of federal authorities. They were so shaken that they launched a super intense investigation into his operations. Gallione's drug trafficking empire is responsible for distributing massive amounts of crack cocaine across multiple states. He's got an insane network of dealers and enforcers, all working to keep his territory on lock. The indictment against Gallione showed clearly how far this notorious mafia boss would go to maintain the smooth running of his drug empire. He was found guilty of multiple counts of murder, which were directly tied to his efforts to eliminate rivals and intimidate witnesses. These murders were part of this crazy pattern of violence that defined Gallione's reign. He is such a feared figure among his rivals and even his own crew. Gallione is not just facing murder charges, but also some serious firearms offenses. He was into weapons and stuff. He would use them to boost his drug trafficking game. Joseph "Joey" Relay Lubrano. Joseph "Joey" Relay Lubrano, a name notorious in the annals of criminal history. He became a symbol of controversial legal proceedings when he was allegedly wrongfully imprisoned for the assault of a black police officer. This case happened when police misconduct was going unchecked and concerns grew over their behavior. Lubrano was accused of brutally beating the officer during a confrontation that, according to his defense, was grossly misrepresented by the prosecution. The incident reportedly occurred during a chaotic situation where Lubrano, according to eyewitnesses supportive of his innocence, was attempting to de-escalate a confrontation involving several individuals. The prosecution, however, tried to spin the story and make it seem like Lubrano was the one starting all the drama, attacking the officer out of nowhere. Furthermore, Lubrano's supposed wrongful prosecution was further upheld when he got listed on the FBI's most wanted list for charges unrelated to the assault case. The FBI is totally after Lubrano for his alleged involvement in a series of armed robberies and racketeering activities. They're painting him as this major player in organized crime. Joseph M. Little Joe Perna. Joseph M. Little Joe Perna, an influential member of the Lucchese crime family, orchestrated a detailed scheme to smuggle drugs and cell phones into East Jersey State Prison. What did Perna do to make his smuggling operation a success? He tapped into his network of criminal connections to find the most trustworthy and reliable associates. His primary partners in this endeavor were members of the 9 Trey Gangsters, who had a strong presence both inside and outside the prison system. This alliance was crucial for the scheme's logistics and execution, given the gang's established networks and influence within East Jersey State Prison. They had heroin, cocaine, and synthetic cannabinoids smuggled in. Like these were super high demand items, you guys. The profit margins on these drugs were significant, providing a continuous flow of funds to sustain the operation. Perna and his associates ensured a steady supply of these substances, creating a lucrative market right inside the prison. With the financial backing of some seriously powerful peeps, the street-level influence of the 9 Trey Gangsters, and the insider help of a totally corrupt corrections officer, Perna built this insane network that made them serious stacks until its eventual dismantling by law enforcement. Vinnie Caral. Vinnie Caral, whose real name is Vincent Vinnie Caral, is a well-known member of the Gambino crime family. He is an integral part of a younger generation of mobsters who have taken over operations in the shadow of their more infamous predecessors. One of the more well-known parts of Caral's criminal actions is that he runs a number of illegal gambling and extortion rings. He has been tied to a number of high-profile cases in which local businesses were forced to pay for protection or were involved in schemes to launder money. One example is that Caral's network was linked to changing the outcomes of sports bets and using real companies to hide illegal activities. Caral has so much power that he runs the lucrative New York City feast and festival events. A lot of money is made at these events, like the Figli di Santa Rosalia feast, through vendor fees and other kinds of blackmail. By hiring companies like Toy Store Amusements, Caral made sure that his family had a big part in these businesses, which strengthened their power over money and land. Even though the federal government has investigated and charged Caral many times, he has avoided long-term jail time, often because his friends and associates have stayed faithful and quiet. This ability to avoid significant legal consequences has only bolstered his reputation within the criminal underworld. Nemesio OsuraCantes, El Mencho, whose real name is Nemesio OsuraCantes, is one of the most powerful and dangerous drug lords in the world right now. El Mencho leads the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, a highly violent and influential criminal organization in Mexico. His rise to power began after joining the Milenio Cartel, where he initially served as part of an assassin squad. Following internal conflicts and the arrest of key leaders within the Milenio Cartel, El Mencho established CJNG, which rapidly expanded its influence through brutal tactics and strategic alliances. CJNG has been involved in a lot of high-profile crimes while El Mencho was in charge. The gang is known for its violent acts, such as attacks on security forces that get a lot of attention, and its aggressive growth. In April 2015, the CJNG attacked and killed 15 police officers in Jalisco. A month later, they shot down a military chopper and killed several soldiers inside. El Mencho's cartel is also very active in the drug trade. At first, CJNG only made methamphetamine, but later they started making and selling heroin as well. They don't just work in Mexico, they also affect drug markets in the US and other places. Despite efforts by Mexican and US authorities to capture him, El Mencho remains at large, continuing to evade capture and maintaining his grip on the cartel's vast and violent operations. Lanni. Lanni has been a mysterious figure in the criminal world for many years. Lanni has become one of the most powerful people in organized crime because of how efficiently and strategically he works. A lot of information about Lanni is secret, but police records, insider accounts, and investigative journalism have helped make a full picture of his criminal activities and personal life. By the time he was in his early 20s, Lanni was well known as a trustworthy enforcer who could finish tough jobs without leaving any open ends. In the 1980s and 1990s, Lanni was very important in bringing drugs into the country and selling them, especially cocaine and heroin. An investigation in 2005 showed that Lanni's group had used a network of fake companies and foreign accounts to launder millions of dollars. Lanni has also done things that are usually associated with the Mafia, like extortion and crime. Police have tried many times to shut down Lanni's activities, but he is still free and active in the criminal world. Fulan Dei. Who knew women could ever become mafia bosses? Well, take for instance Fulan Dei, who is also called the Bandit Queen. She was born in the Jalan area of Uttar Pradesh, India. She went through a lot of traumatic events that made her turn to crime. In her early years, Fulan Dei had a very hard time. The man she married was 3 times her age and abused her. She was only 11 years old. After leaving her abusive marriage, she was shunned by her peers and continued to be mistreated, which made her want to fight against the unfair treatment she was receiving. Her criminal career began when she became involved with a gang of bandits led by Babu Gujar. After Gujar's murder by Vikram Malla, who then took over the gang and became her partner, Fulan Dei engaged in numerous acts of banditry. The gang went on raids in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, going after villages with top castes. The lower castes saw her as Robin Hood because of this. One of the most famous things that happened because of her is the Bemai killing in 1981, where she and her gang killed 22 Rajput men to get back at upper caste members who had defiled her before. This brutal act brought her widespread notoriety and a significant police crackdown. Filipelli. Filipelli was born in Brooklyn, New York, into a family with deep ties to the Italian-American Mafia. His father, Vinnie Filipelli, was a known associate of the Gambino crime family. This gave Lou an early introduction to the world of organized crime. Lou grew up with all the trappings of life in the Mafia, from the fancy parties to the harsh truth of law enforcement and punishment. In the 1980s, Lou started out as a criminal by running chores and taking care of small-time crimes. By the time he was 20, he had shown that he was both cruel and smart, traits that made people in the organization admire and fear him. In 1990, he got his big break when he planned and carried out a successful heist of a high-end jewelry shop in Manhattan. The family made millions of dollars, and he became known as a skilled and driven businessman. Lou Filipelli is still busy and powerful in the criminal world. His power goes beyond New York. He has businesses in Florida, Las Vegas, and even some parts of Europe. Lou Filipelli doesn't seem to be slowing down. He is still growing his business and avoiding being caught. Mickey Ragusa. Michael Ragusa, known as Mickey, totally started his journey with the Genovese crime family at a young age. He hustled his way up the ladder by getting involved in all sorts of epic criminal activities. The Genovese family is also one of the 5 families of the New York Mafia. They've been running the show when it comes to organized crime in the city for like forever. Ragusa leveled up in the family because of his insane loyalty, strategic genius, and fierce dedication to protecting and growing the family's interests. He's not afraid to get a little wild and violent if it means securing the bag, you know? Ragusa's reputation for violence is totally well earned. He's been involved in so many assaults and robberies, and let me tell you, he doesn't hold back. The level of brutality he brings is just insane, all to make sure people are scared and do what he wants. One notable incident involved a series of coordinated assaults on business owners who refused to comply with the Genovese family's extortion demands. These attacks were meticulously planned and executed, showcasing Ragusa's ability to orchestrate violence with precision and effectiveness. Lorenzo Manino. Born in Sicily, Lorenzo Manino immigrated to the United States and quickly embedded himself within the criminal underworld. His entry into the Gambino crime family marked the beginning of a significant and influential career in organized crime. As a caporegime, Manino managed a crew of soldiers and oversaw various illicit activities, making him a crucial figure within the family. He was the mastermind behind setting up and running the family's epic narcotics distribution networks. They were all about importing and distributing massive amounts of heroin and cocaine. Manino's expertise in drug trafficking not only generated substantial profits for the family, but also expanded their influence within the international narcotics trade. His violent tendencies are so next level. Manino was caught up in this crazy plot to take out Francesco Oliveri, a rival mobster. The deets of the plot are top secret, but law enforcement investigations spilled the tea on Manino's direct involvement in orchestrating the hit. His reputation for violence goes way beyond the Oliveri conspiracy. He's been linked to so many assaults and retaliatory attacks against anyone who dared to defy the Gambino family's authority. He's not someone you want to mess with. His leadership has ensured the family's continued influence and power within the organized crime landscape of New York City. Liborio S. Barney Bomo. Barney Bomo is a legend in the American Mafia, especially in the Genovese crime family. His family history is intertwined with the Mafia, and it's so complex and full of historical crime vibes. His criminal activities caught the attention of law enforcement. He got hit with multiple indictments over the years. One significant indictment came in 2006, when Bomo was charged with money laundering related to the Genovese family's control over the waterfront rackets and their influence over the International Longshoremen's Association, ILA. It's a whole century of power moves and major profits. And get this, they were laundering the cash through legit enterprises. Plus, they were pulling strings to make sure the ILA played along with their shady activities. It was seriously so sophisticated, with multiple layers of financial transactions that were totally designed to hide where the money came from. On February 23, 2006, Bomo and over 30 members of the Genovese family got hit with some serious racketeering charges. Bomo was charged with ordering the 1998 murder of Ralph Coppola, who was not only the acting captain of Bomo's crew, but also his good friend. On September 16, 1998, Coppola totally vanished just weeks before his sentencing on fraud charges, and like he was never found. Government witness Peter Peluso, a former lawyer for the Genovese family, said that he had helped transport a message from Bomo in prison, ordering the murder of Coppola. Peluso pleaded guilty to his role in the murder, but the government had zero proof that Peluso had met with Bomo, so there wasn't enough evidence to press the murder charge against Bomo. And guess what? With insufficient evidence to press the murder charge against Bomo, the government offered him a plea bargain for mail fraud in 2007. Bomo accepted and got an extra year in prison instead of 4. That's it for our list. If you want more exclusive and shocking content, click on the cards on your screen now.